So a very good morning to everyone. Honorable Minister Owen Bonici, Dr. Azzopaldi, Scalia, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Actually, all attendees, both physically here in person and all online attendees, a very good morning and thank you so much for being with us. We all acknowledge that time is indeed money, so we do appreciate that you're bearing with us the next 3 to 4 hours to share with you what the Human Rights Directorate and Soji Unit in particular have been doing and undertaking over the past 2.5 years, since November 2019, to pursue this very specific, however important, possibly underappreciated theme that we're going to address over the next 3 hours, raising standards, awareness, best practices, when it comes to LGBTI community accessing healthcare. But it's not only LGBTI persons accessing healthcare services and how healthcare professionals can possibly improve their capacity, also how to trying to open their doors in a more caring, meaningful, thoughtful, and open manner, but also what the LGBT community can address to increase more awareness and try to make sure that they're also taking all the necessary precautions. Just a small bracket, some years back, possibly 5-6 years ago, I vividly remember assisting my cousin. She was 16 at the time, and she was feeling sick. We went to one of the health centers, the public health centers. I just waited outside in the health center, in the waiting room. She was asked to go in, and after just 15 minutes or so, she came out and she looked like very disappointed. And I asked her, just candidly, so how it went, so what happened exactly? And she was telling me, so I've been through this very particular experience, Kate. I told her, okay, so I'm all ears. And she told me, so the GP was very warm as soon as I went in, as soon as I just disclosed how I'm doing. I just sat for my O-levels, so that's a big thing in our life, of course. And he was very warm, very kind, very thoughtful, and whatnot. As soon as she disclosed her sexual activity and opened up that she was gay, she told me instantly I could tell that his face changed completely. He tried to rush me out of the clinic, and in no time, I'm here, just right next to you. At the time, I felt helpless, honestly, because I've never been through such an experience, but I could see her disappointment. And just recalling that experience nowadays, it feels sad, just because that particular GP happened to be possibly unaware of this project, possibly unaware of how things have changed and how particularly sensitive all healthcare professionals should be when dealing with such cases. I know this is a very particular case, but it's not only the case of my cousin. We're speaking about hundreds of people who are possibly not open when disclosing their gender identity. And if not mistaken, there was a survey some 2 years ago, and almost 50% of trans people interviewed said that they're afraid of disclosing, or they're not keen on disclosing their gender identity. And of course, that might lead to healthcare problems, because since then, my cousin, when I bumped into her a few months ago, she told me, since then, I'm afraid to visit a clinic. Why it should be the case. So on a side note, that's just a personal note, but throughout the conference today, there is going to be a lineup, possibly you've seen on your, just in front of you, a pack full of information regarding the speakers, because this project takes inspiration from the Health for LGBTI for Health of the European Parliament, but it's also being organized together with some great organizers, great collaborators, including the Ghent University Hospital. Gabby will surely take us through all the collaborators throughout this project, which started in November 2019 and will end at the end of next month. Due to the COVID, this project had to be extended just slightly. However, today is the culmination. We're going to share with you all the information. what Transform tried to achieve, what it managed to achieve, and what next. So just 3 house rules, if I may, before we start with our speakers. We do have sign language interpretations, so please bear with us when speaking, even during the open floor Q&A, during the panel discussions. Just try to speak as slowly as possible, not just 88 words per minute, such as Martin Luther King did, but possibly just speak slowly so sign language interpretation can just communicate what you're saying to our audience. We do have the contact tracing form, so please do bear with us to share a few seconds to just insert your details. And lastly, this session is being recorded. So if you're not willing to just be on camera or something, just please let us know. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our very first speaker, all the way from Brussels or possibly Strasbourg, the European Commissioner for Equality. Please join me in welcoming Elena Dalli.
Research conducted by the EU Agency for Fundamental Rights shows that LGBTIQ people continue to experience a number of difficulties in accessing healthcare and other services because of discrimination. The Transform project, delivered by the Human Rights Directorate within the Ministry for Equality, Research and Innovation, in partnership with the Office of the Deputy Prime Minister and the Ministry for Health, the Malta College of Family Doctors and the Malta Union of Midwives and Nurses, was therefore much needed. I commend all of those involved in ensuring that healthcare practitioners, managers, nurses, and front office staff are trained to challenge own stereotypes and are equipped to deal with LGBTIQ patients adequately, as well as the development of new awareness-raising resources for the LGBTIQ community, dealing with sexual health, mental health, and the services of the Gender Wellbeing Clinic. This is groundbreaking and testament to the Maltese Healthcare Services' commitment to raise health standards for all in line with international human rights and best standards of care. I also take note of the fact that the project sought to harness the best practice from Ghent University Hospital Transinfo Point and have it shared with the Gender Wellbeing Clinic, as well as the associate partnership of ILGA Europe and Transgender Europe and the collaboration of the Council of Europe SOGI unit. Be proud of your achievement and the positive impact that it will have on LGBTIQ people in Malta and beyond. The European Commission has doubled the funding available under the Citizens' Equality, Rights and Values programme precisely to support projects like yours and to continue to foster a union of equality where all persons are valued in their uniqueness and diversity, free from stereotypes, discrimination or violence. I therefore encourage you to explore how to continue to make best use of this funding for the betterment of the standard of living and greater social inclusion. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Dalli, for your time, for your kind remarks, and for your kind words towards this project, which, as she clearly highlighted, is being co-financed thanks to EU funds. The next speaker, I'm honored to introduce with us, he's here with us this morning in person, the Director of the Human Rights Directorate, Mr. Michael Camilleri.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable Minister Bonici, colleagues and guests. Transform project is the third project under the Rights, Equality and Citizenship Programme of the European Union, which was proposed and entrusted to the Human Rights Directorate. I must welcome Gabriella and her team, as the project proposal was accepted with almost full marks. I would also like to thank the project partners and the SOGIGESC team, Aaron and Maronia, led by Gabi, an example of a small team which delivers massive results in Malta and also internationally. I therefore welcome you on behalf of the project partners for the final conference of the Transform project. which was made possible through co-funding by the Rights, Equality and Citizenship Programme of the European Union, an investment of around €250,000, which enhanced the capacity of the Directorate to fulfill its mission. Over the past 2 years, the Just Unit within the Human Rights Directorate has been busy to make a difference to the standard of living of LGBTIQ people, in particular trans people, by ensuring to reach and exceed the project milestones, which included coordination and implementation of project activities, planning and delivery of training sessions, and the development and dissemination of awareness-raising materials envisaged by the project. This was not an easy job, especially with the challenges faced by the pandemic. Many activities had to be cancelled and rescheduled, and also restructured in virtual formats. However, we managed to reach and exceed the project targets. This would not have been possible without the collaboration established with the project partners. We are fortunate to have been able to benefit from a consortium of partners which embraced a shared vision and commitment towards attaining the goals of this project, that is, raising standards of healthcare services provision for LGBTIQ people. The focus of this project was determined in view of commitments set out in Malta's LGBTIQ Equality Strategy and Action Plan for 2018 to 2022. In the early stages of the project, we were faced with the uncertainty posed by the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic. This new reality has had an impact on all the work programs. It created particular implications for a project whose main stakeholders and trainees were those working in the health sector. These were delayed and adjustments needed to be made. And in this regard, I thank the EU Commission Project Liaison Officer for their understanding, and I also thank the project partners for their flexibility as we figured out how best to move forward. This conference is therefore an opportunity to celebrate the work done, to take stock of what has been learned, to explore what can be of inspiration to others, and most importantly, to discuss where we go from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Camilleri, especially for thanking and recognizing the impeccable efforts of Gabby, Maronia, and Darren, such a small team, but they managed to deliver such great results, and today we're going to witness these results together and possibly discuss, debate, and possibly tweak some of these, some of the work undertaken by this small team. I do believe that Mr. Camilleri mentioned and acknowledged the long list of collaborators, of partners to complete this project successfully, including the Ministry for Health. And I'm delighted to introduce now from the Office of the Chief Medical Officer within the Ministry of Health, Dr. Alexia Bezzina. She's not physically with us this morning, but we still have her with us visually through this recording.
Honourable Commissioner, Honourable Minister, members and partners of the Transform Project, distinguished colleagues and guests. It's a pleasure today to commemorate these years of achievements through this Transform Project. Over the last decades, there were staggering changes in the legal and political landscape in Malta, vis-à-vis LGBTIQ rights, protection from discrimination, amongst others. However, it is known that sensitizing hearts by providing knowledge on the specific needs of LGBTIQ persons is what brings about lasting change. This Transform Project partnered a number of expert international organizations and representatives from all the health entities in Malta and Gozo, with an aim to bring about an area of training. In fact, over 600 persons were trained to a number of persons who work in healthcare organizations and health centers and in hospitals. This training was obviously targeted to the specific needs and expertise of the different groups. We have all needed to go to the doctor at some point in time, and that is a moment which makes you vulnerable, at which you need to rely on the professional knowledge and expertise of the doctors or healthcare professionals who you are going to see. In the last Fundamental Rights Agency survey, the Maltese respondents said that 9% of people felt discriminated against when attending health or social care settings. That is 9%, too many. To provide a trivial comparison, sometimes when an LGBTIQ person approaches a health setting, it is like trying to speak a foreign language in a native country. You know the language, but you fear that you are going to be ridiculed, and so you might have some healthcare avoiding behavior. So what we need to do is that we need to sensitize the person at the front line who are within the healthcare settings to the specific needs and the better way to approach an LGBTIQ person. And that is done by increasing their knowledge and their sensitivity. What is really important is that all persons who require to attend for a healthcare appointment do that without delay, feeling comfortable and respected as they interact with the healthcare professionals. Malta does in fact hold an enviable place as regards a number of indicators relating to LGBTIQ rights. However, there are still some factors, such as with regard to sexual health, HIV incidence, for example, and mental health indicators, for example, depressive symptoms in the previous 2 weeks, where LGBTIQ persons fare worse than the general population. And these are the points upon which targeted messages needs to be homed in upon. The transgender services were also very important beneficiaries of this project. We have a new website which has been created for our transgender clients and even for professionals alike. We have received a lot of training. The MDT has received a lot of training by partnering with expert professionals abroad. And there are other small initiatives which are going to support the continuous training of our professionals. As a last point, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the HRID team, to Gabby, to Maronia, and to Waron, for continuing to persevere to reach the deliverables of this project, even though COVID threw quite a large curveball in the path. I would like to thank the Transform project partners who willingly took up this invitation for training. And last but not least, I would like to thank Michelle Celia, who despite her clinical commitments and dedication, has found the time to coordinate deliverables on behalf of the Ministry for Health vis-à-vis this project. I wish you an enjoyable closing conference, and I look forward to hearing the take-home messages from this conference to continue to inform our policies to make sure that they are as inclusive of LGBTIQ persons as possible. Thank you.
So much, Dr. Alexia Bezzina. Some meaningful take-home messages from her remarks, including training, awareness, and more opportunities for healthcare professionals to better understand, better equip themselves from a knowledge perspective to truly be more sensitive. The key word possibly here is being more sensitive and sensibilizing all healthcare professionals. So I'd like to invite now the Honourable Minister for Equality, Research and Innovation. Please join me in welcoming Honourable Owen Bonnici.
Good morning, dear colleagues. I would like to thank immediately the team at Soġiġesk, led by the director Michael Camilleri, Gabby, and the small unit, but which makes a lot of work. So I've been told most of the time that, you know, in this and that department we need more people. But I always explain to the persons, people talking to me, that it's not how many people you have, but the actual passion they have for the job. And I would like to thank Sojijesk and the unit led by Gabby for the fantastic work they are doing. Today, we are celebrating a success. We are celebrating the completion of the Transform project and discuss the lessons learned that can help us guide our efforts moving forward. Building partnerships, sharing good practices, and increasing knowledge and skills are important strategies in many aspects of our work, but they seem especially important when seeking to address inequalities. And therefore, I am very grateful to all the entities and organizations who agreed to be part of this project. And I thank the European Commission for providing the financial resources that made this implementation possible. As a country, we have made great strides in ensuring that LGBTIQ persons enjoy equal rights through equal recognition of all couples and families, the right to legal gender recognition and bodily integrity of trans and intersex persons, the banning of conversion practices, and access to reproductive health services, amongst others. As I frequently state, however, laws and policies in and of themselves are necessary, but not sufficient to change hearts and minds. Ensuring that laws and policies change practice for the better requires an intersectional approach that recognizes the roles that different stakeholders play in their effective implementation. Experience has shown us time and time again that we need to take an equitable approach and take into the account the individual differences that make our society so interesting, so colorful, so diverse. We can only achieve equality when our individual attributes and needs are acknowledged and valued. Real equality means that each and every individual is treated with dignity, in full recognition of who they really are. And this is important at all levels of our society, but perhaps even more crucial when it comes to healthcare. This particular project focused on addressing the health inequalities experienced by LGBTIQ persons, a worthy endeavor given the life-saving potential that access to health service provides. Being dependent on others for your well-being is never an easy position to be in for any person. And I hope that the knowledge and skills gained by those working in the health sector through this project put them in a better position to provide LGBTIQ persons with health services that are better able to meet their needs, and that LGBTIQ persons can trust that their care and the care that they receive also takes into account their LGBTIQ identity. I pledge my continued commitment. There is so much more we need to do. You know, a number of weeks ago, I had a conversation with Gabby on blood donation by LGBTIQ couples, and particularly those relating to gay men who are sexually active. Research and innovation can help to change the situation we have today and make the waiting time of 1 year, which we have introduced through a policy in 2019, to a more personalized approach. And I look forward to work with the health authorities on that, because that is very, very important. So there is so much more we still need to do. I look forward to the presentations and discussions which will follow, and I will make it a point to be here for the keynote addresses. And I'm sure that we all have so much to learn. But I want to emphasize how important everything becomes when we work together, when we pull the same rope, and we make a concrete effort, not only to change this and that particular part of our legislation, but also to win over the hearts and minds in our society. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honourable Owen Bonici, for your remarks, for outlining the government's commitment in this regard. So one of the four main objectives, overarching objectives of the Transport project was to raise awareness to LGBT persons about the health risks and health services. And throughout the past 2 years, they managed to also produce, in a very captivating way, I must say, some audiovisual material. We're privileged to be having the opportunity to see some of these audiovisual packages this morning. So the first one is related to the health services, health risks, and why precaution is key.
Ma, Dan Russell, il-boyfriend. Ma, il-nirrit ngħidlek xi ħaġa. Jien gay u dan il-boyfriend tiegħi, Russell.
Għal xiex mettilix, tistħiljet miegħi. Kellem lil-kuġintek, Dr. Jessica u rajt ħafna, tafkom sew u tirrispettawa, tista' tgħinek.
Naf li għalik diffiċli. Imma kif għatlek qed tinkwita wisqal xejn. L-ommijiet mhux l-kemm taħbilhom. Dik ilha taf u ovvjament ħobbok ħafna. Għajdli nagħmlu dan allura.
Russell jismu? Hawn Henry.
Issa, hej? Isma, qed tieħu l-prekawzjonijiet hux.
Prekawzjonijiet?
Condoms, PrEP, dental dam.
Jess.
Biex niftehmu, ma fija xejn ħażin li tkun attiv sesswalment. Dażmin li ma jerġax jiġi lura. Staqsi lill-arter. Ħasra li mbagħad spiċċajna bil-banda. Imma importanti li tieħdu l-prekawzjonijiet. Użaw kondom dejjem. L-HIV l-aktar komuni fl-irġiel li kollhom x'jaqsmu flimkien. U hawn madwar persuna minn kull 1000 li jgħixu bl-HIV. Ħafna kondizzjonijiet asimptomatiċi qas tkun taf li għandek. Il-kondom inaqqas iċ-ċans li tieħu infezzjoni aktar minn 90%. Tagħmlu testijiet ta' spiss?
Le.
Isma' minni, aħjar tkunu safe. Il-GU Clinic hemm nies tajbin ħafna u tinqeda. Aw, niżel il-website jew in-number. U għaw din ukoll ara www.hivmalta.com. Hemm ħafna STIs, sexually transmitted infections. U hemm minni mhumiex sbieħ. Il-GU Clinic jistgħu jiktbulek għal PrEP ukoll.
PrEP?
Mediċina li ssiba mingħand l-ispiżjara u tnaqqas ir-riskju tal-HIV 99% ta' drabi. Dejjem jekk toħodha sew. Imbagħad f'każ ta' sess orali hemm dental dams. Importanti. Taf bihom hux?
Le.
Okej, imnallet nitkellmu. Isa kondom ċatt biex tevita l-kuntatt bejn il-ħalq u l-parti intima. Importanti li ma jkunx hemm likwidu fil-ħalq. U f'każ ta' rimming ukoll.
Rimming?
Meta xi ħadd jesplora l-warrani bil-ħalq jew bl-ilsien. Il-ħalq, il-warrani jew vaġina sensittivi ħafna. Faċilment ikun hemm xi qasma żgħira li tista' ddum biex tfiq, allura ikun hemm riskju kbir ta' infezzjoni. Taħsilx tinek qabel eżempju għax tista' tagħmel dawn il-qasmiet żgħar. Tħallinix imbeżżak. Anke jekk xi ħadd ikollu STI jew l-HIV, jista' jkollu ħajja attiva. Grazzi għat-trattamenti tal-lum. Basta bil-prekawzjonijiet. Immorru. Meta se tlaqani allura? Dan il-proġett huwa parzjalment iffinanzjat mill-Programma Drittijiet l-Ugwaljanza u ċ-Ċittadinanza tal-Unjoni Ewropea.
So very well done to all involved in producing such captivating audiovisual material. So to take you through by now, you might have realized what Transport tried to achieve, why it was launched in November 2019, funding, support, and whatnot. But now, I'm delighted that Gabby Kaleya, she will take us through what this project is trying to achieve and what next. So please, Gabby Kaleya.
Hi, good morning, everyone, Honourable Minister, partners, colleagues, and guests. So over the next 20 minutes or so, I will seek to provide an overview of the Transform project as it was envisaged and at application stage, as well as what was achieved in practice throughout its implementation. Just 1 second, because I forgot the remote. If someone could please hand it to me. There's always something. So, in essence, a general overview of the project, the 5 different work packages, which you see outlined here, management and coordination of the project, training of healthcare practitioners and reception staff, exchange of good practices, an awareness-raising campaign in healthcare centers, and awareness-raising on LGBTIQ health. Also, some financial information relating to the budget of the project. The project consortium, as has already been mentioned a number of times, involved a partnership between the Human Rights Directorate, currently falling under the Ministry for Equality, Research and Innovation, the Office of the Deputy Prime Minister and Ministry for Health, Ghent University Hospital and their Transgender Info Point, the Malta College of Family Doctors, the Malta Union of Midwives and Nurses, and a number of associate partners, which included ILGA Europe, Transgender Europe, and Stewart Healthcare. The project also enjoyed the support of the Council of Europe's SOGI unit. All partners were approached and selected based on their expertise and potential contribution in reaching the project objectives. So the project application was submitted under the Rights, Equality and Citizenship Programme of the European Union in October 2018, with notification of adjudication around April of 2019. The project was officially able to get off the ground on the 1st November 2019 with a duration of 24 months, which was then extended by a further 4 months given the challenges to implementation posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. The project budget was estimated at €246,541, with 197,233 euros being EU funds and 49,308 being national funds. The overall aim of the project was to enhance the capacity of a range of health practitioners to address the health needs of LGBTIQ patients in a sensitive manner that acknowledges the specific challenges often encountered by LGBTIQ persons in their everyday life, which impact their health and well-being, and by making practitioners more aware of heteronormative assumptions that result in inequalities in access to healthcare of LGBTIQ persons. In this, the Transform project was fortunate to be able to build on a previous REC-funded project entitled Health for LGBTI of the European Parliament, which conducted research on health inequalities experienced by LGBTI persons and also developed and piloted training resources to be used with health practitioners. The choice of project theme was, as has already been mentioned, also guided and influenced by Malta's LGBTIQ equality strategy and action plan, of which Area 3 focuses on the right to health and includes a number of measures that look to improve LGBTIQ persons' general well-being and access to healthcare services. The various work packages were tailored to address the 4 main objectives of the project, that is, to ensure LGBTIQ persons enjoy equal and non-discriminatory access to health services by enhancing the awareness and capacity of those involved in mainstream healthcare provision to meet their needs, to enhance the capacity of medical and psychosocial partners to meet the health needs of trans persons, to provide resources that inform LGBTIQ patients of their rights and that signpost healthcare services as being LGBTIQ inclusive, and to raise awareness among LGBTIQ persons on specific health risks and health services. We aimed to address these objectives through a number of initiatives, and the initial targets set were the training of 60 management staff and practice nurses involved in the provision of health services, which could then act as multipliers within the settings they worked in, the training of an additional 120 health practitioners in collaboration with the Malta Union of Midwives and Nurses, the training of 80 general practitioners and family doctors in Malta and Gozo in collaboration with the Malta College of Family Doctors. GPs and family doctors in Malta are often the first point of contact or point of call for most persons seeking healthcare. The training of 25 emergency personnel in Malta and Gozo. We thought it was important to target this particular department in view of the critical life-saving decisions that they are often responsible for. Sensitivity training to 300 reception staff working in healthcare settings in both Malta and Gozo, and again, as often first point of contact in health settings for patients, we did not want to only focus on healthcare practitioners, but also other persons working within this sector who interact with patients and whose actions can impact on whether LGBTIQ persons experience these settings as inclusive. The exchange of good practices between Ghent University Hospital's multidisciplinary gender team and Malta's gender wellbeing clinic multidisciplinary team was also an integral part of this project, given that Malta's trans-specific health services under the NHS were launched in November 2018. We thought that at the national level we could benefit from the decades-old experience enjoyed by Ghent University Hospital's gender team, and that this exchange would be mutually beneficial. This collaboration also extended to other services provided by Ghent University Hospital's Transgender Info Point, and included the development of a website aimed at general practitioners, psychosocial professionals, nurses, midwives, emergency personnel, and other health practitioners. The final two work packages aimed at the development of awareness, information, and social media campaigns aimed at promoting healthcare services as welcoming and safe spaces for LGBTIQ persons, mainly through the dissemination of posters and stickers, and awareness, information, and social media campaigns aimed at the LGBTIQ community on health risks associated with this cohort, mainly through the production of leaflets, online banners, and animated videos, which were also to be disseminated through online portals. So just to go briefly through each work package, the work package 1, which was the management and coordination of the project. As anyone involved in EU-funded projects is aware, the engagement of the partners throughout the project is a key factor in its successful implementation. And throughout the project, we made sure to schedule regular meetings with partners and to keep all partners informed of progress and challenges to implementation. This included a kick-off meeting in November 2019, which was the one time, actually, in which all partners were actually able to come together in person. It provided an opportunity to consolidate the partnership, outline responsibilities, and in particular, learn more about the trans health services provided at Ghent University Hospital and Transgender Info Point. Subsequently to this, around 10 partners meetings were held online every 2 to 3 months throughout the project. There were also numerous other bilateral meetings with partners in relation to one or more of the initiatives being planned throughout. The launch event was held around 1 year after the start of the project. It was originally intended to take place around the same time as the kickoff meeting to enable project partners to be present. However, the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic also put on hold any in-person events for months. It was therefore a relatively small event addressed by the then Minister for Justice, Equality and Governance and the Parliamentary Secretary for Equality and Reforms, as well as representatives from the Ministry for Health. We also established a project webpage, which was regularly updated to provide updates on the project aims and implementation. One of the initial tasks was also the commissioning of the design of the project logo, which was used subsequently in all project materials. So this was the main task, aside from this final conference, of the first work package. Work package 2 focused on the training delivery to healthcare practitioners and reception staff. So this was aimed at basically building the capacity of those working within the health sector. As I mentioned, the aim was to train 80 general practitioners, 25 emergency department staff, 60 managers and practice nurses, 120 healthcare practitioners, and 300 reception staff. One of the first trainings to be conducted were that aimed at the emergency department staff in Malta and Gozo, as well as that aimed at GPs and family doctors, and that's focused specifically, both of these, on caring for trans patients. Both were originally intended to be delivered by experts from Ghent University Hospital's gender team and transgender info point in person over a 3-day visit. So although the training did actually go ahead, however, it was delivered virtually. And in order not to create too much disruption in service provision, the sessions were conducted over a number of sessions in terms of emergency staff, 2 for Mater Dei accident and emergency department personnel, and 2 for those at the Gozo General Hospital in collaboration with Stewart Healthcare. In all, 25 persons were trained. One of the unintended, perhaps positive outcomes of these virtual sessions was that we were able to record the sessions, and those recordings were eventually also able to be used with other cohorts. Participants for the training aimed at general practitioners and family doctors, as mentioned, was also conducted online in partnership with the Malta College of Family Doctors. Originally, it had been planned to take the form of 2 conferences, one in Malta and the other in Gozo, but this was not to be. The training also provided the opportunity for those participating to familiarize themselves with the services provided by the Gender Wellbeing Clinic and potentially therefore facilitate referrals where appropriate. The recording of the session was also made available to be streamed offline on a particular website that is frequently used by medical practitioners and the experts involved in the delivery of the training gave permission for this session to be made available for a period of 1 year. In terms of the training to healthcare practitioners, the preparation for this part of the work package involved the adaptation of the training resources developed through the Health for LGBTI project mentioned earlier and the design and printing of the training booklets. We liaised with the partners in order to identify the training participants. The training was originally envisaged to be held throughout 2020 and was eventually postponed to 2021 and eventually rolled out between June and July 2021. So the training to health practitioners followed the model developed by the Health for LGBTI project, with SOGIGESC unit staff teaming up with the nurse coordinator of the Gender Wellbeing Clinic for the delivery. Participants were mainly recruited through an invitation sent out to members of our partner organization, MUMN. It proved to be popular and, in fact, oversubscribed, although actual attendance fluctuated, also influenced by staffing shortages over the course of the pandemic. 4 training sessions of 5 hours each were conducted, reaching a total of 112 persons for this cohort. The training content, as I said, was based on the Health for LGBTI training program and covered these 4 modules. So an introduction to the project, awareness raising, key concepts and terminology, an overview of the research in this field, discussions around communication practices, and then trans and intersex health. And throughout the sessions, participants were encouraged to participate, ask questions, and reflect on their own practice and how this can be enhanced. The training to managers and practice nurses was similar in terms of content. So an additional 3 sessions of the training was carried out with a total of 73 managers and practice nurses who were identified by Mater Dei Hospital, Primary Healthcare, Sir Anthony Mamo Oncology Centre, Mount Carmel Hospital and St. Vincent de Paul management. And as I mentioned, these trainees are intended to act as multipliers given the role they occupy within healthcare provision. The training targeting reception staff was conducted over 27 separate sessions held between July and November 2021 by the staff of the SOGIESC unit in collaboration again with the same entities, Mater Dei, Stewart Healthcare, Mount Carmel Hospital, SAMOC and Primary Healthcare. These sessions were 1.5 hours long and focused mainly on key concepts and terminology and inclusive communication practices, and built a lot on the experiences of the participants in their day-to-day work. So in all, 321 persons were trained. As mentioned, throughout the project, the Gender Wellbeing Clinic team received additional requests for training, for which they were able to use also the resources developed through the project, and 2 supplementary sessions took place with nurses from the Assisted Reproductive Technology Clinic and with psychiatry trainees, reaching an additional 49 participants. So overall, the project exceeded its target of 585 training participants under this work package by just over 100, reaching 687 trainees, which, given the challenging times we are operating in, particularly in the health sector, we consider to be quite an achievement. Work package 3, this focused on the exchange of good practices between Malta's multidisciplinary team of the Gender Wellbeing Clinic and the Ghent University Hospital experts. It proved to be one of the most challenging to implement, given the travel restrictions and quarantine obligations imposed by governments, and also sometimes the suspension of non-life-saving medical interventions in some hospitals when COVID-19 cases were on the rise. So the original intent was to provide the opportunity for 12 members of Malta's Gender Wellbeing Clinic multidisciplinary team to undertake observation visits to Ghent University Hospital and conduct sort of job shadowing experiences with experts there. In the end, this proved somewhat impossible to plan for and to manage, and therefore we came up with alternative solutions. There was an opportunity, of course, for an exchange to happen also virtually. A roundtable was organized around October of 2020 between members of both teams. Instead of the exchange visits, there was also an agreement approved by the Commission to have 10 members of the team to participate in the EPAT conference, the European Professional Association for Transgender Health, which was planned to take place in Gothenburg, Sweden in August 2021. And the multidisciplinary team was able to follow this 3-day conference virtually online together in Malta. And a follow-up day to this was also organized as part of the project, given that there was a lot of information and knowledge sharing that happened during the conference. Part of the project deliverables was also the development of the website on Trans Health, aimed at a range of healthcare practitioners. This is an adaptation of a Belgian website run by the Transgender Info Point. It involved the initial translation of the website and then painstakingly going through each part of the content to ensure that it reflected the latest research and best practice. And for this part of the deliverable, my thanks especially goes to Jos Motmans, Keenan from ILGA Europe, Leo from Transgender Europe, and Jason Bonici from the Malta College of Family Doctors. So this website was eventually launched in June 2021 through a Popolin program, and then also through a number of TV spots. Awareness of this website was also enhanced. This is just some information about how the website is structured. I have a feeling I'm running a little bit late, so I am going to leave this for you to explore. The website address you will find is transhealth.gov.mt. It is hosted by the Ministry for Health on its website. The last two packages were mainly around the first work package for around signposting health settings as being LGBTIQ inclusive, and we aim to do this through the production of a number of stickers and posters. You can, for those of you who are present here, see examples of these at the back of the hall, but they can also be accessed on the SOGIGESC unit website. So in all, we produced 5 stickers in both Maltese and English, as well as 2 posters, which will be disseminated over the next few weeks. For the last work package, this focused on the awareness raising campaign. You have just seen in the previous video one example of the work that was produced. You will be seeing others throughout the course of this conference. We focused mainly on sexual health, mental health, and the services of the Gender Wellbeing Clinic. All campaign resources were developed by the SOGIGESC unit in consultation with the partners, as well as a number of LGBTIQ NGOs to ensure the right messaging. So the campaign included a leaflet campaign to be disseminated mainly through healthcare settings, also a number of social media banners and 3 animated videos. The banners and videos were disseminated and boosted quite extensively on a number of social media platforms, including Grindr, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram between December and January. So last December and January 2022. Finally, just a little bit of information about the project budget. So as mentioned, the project budget was around 250,000, of which around 100,000 was around 200,000 is EU funds and 50,000 is national funds. The bulk of the funds were administered by the Human Rights Directorate, and we are still in the process of absorbing some of the savings, let us say, that resulted from mainly the inability to conduct activities related to travel. But we hope that by the end of next month, which will bring us to the end of the project timeline, we will actually have utilized all of the funding. So just to perhaps highlight a few things. So as I mentioned, the project was able to build on the training resources and research conducted in the Health for LGBTI project. We thought this was an important plus. It saved us a lot of time in terms of the development of training resources. And we found that the training was effective. The training delivered by local experts can continue to be rolled out beyond the project timeline, since it was the SOGESC unit and the gender well-being clinic staff who delivered this training. It means we are, in a sense, we have the expertise to continue to deliver this in the future. All partners engaged in the project and committed towards the implementation of the project's objectives, enabled the project to go ahead, irrespective of the challenges that we faced. We believe that the project has increased the visibility of the gender well-being clinic services, also among healthcare practitioners. The project activities strengthened the already existing relationship between the policy unit at the Ministry for Health and the Gender Wellbeing Clinic team and the HRD counterparts, as well as giving us the opportunity to work with new entities such as Mater Dei and Stewart Healthcare, for example, and also with the Trans Health website. We have a tool that, of course, also goes beyond the project timeline. Just to end with a particular thank you. Some of these people have been mentioned already, Maroni and Aaron on behalf of the Human Rights Directorate, Alexia Bezzina, Michelle Ciglia, and Anna Schmidt, especially from the Ministry for Health, Lindsay Mela from Stewart Healthcare, Jos Motmans from Ghent University Hospital, Jason Bonici from MCFD, Alex Manche from MUMN, Keenan Russell from ILGA Europe, and Leo Muleo Alvarez from TGEU. Without these people being always willing to communicate with us throughout the course of the project, we would not have been able to implement it. So my gratitude to them.
So thank you so much, Gabi Kaleya, for a very well presented, well-detailed presentation and taking us through all the numbers related to the Transform project. I was particularly intrigued seeing almost 700 professionals reached thanks to Transform, one of the key drivers. Not only Gabi, Maronia, and Aaron Lee is the next speaker, the first keynote speaker we have with us this morning. So she's been working as a professional healthcare provider for the past 2 decades now. Since 2018, she joined the Gender Wellbeing Clinic. She's now the charge nurse there. Her main role focusing primarily in helping transgender people, accessing professional services, awareness, education, training, all that. She's going to be our next speaker. She's a key influencer in this regard, in this sector, so we're delighted to have with us. Please join me, Miss Michelle Ciglia.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. 22 years ago, when I started my career in nursing, I would never, ever have imagined that today I would be here doing a keynote speech on LGBTIQ healthcare provision. My training, just like other healthcare professionals, and even my socialization process were mostly based on the medical and binary model, with the view that cisgenderism and heterosexuality are the absolute norm. Today, I realize how this division has been the cause for many people to be left in the dark, both outside and within the healthcare system. However, I have also come to understand that while certain groups of people may be affected by a number of disadvantages which are visible or direct, others may face more subtle inequalities which are only visible if we have the sensitivity and awareness to understand the other person's experience. I have also realized that many times inequalities do not happen voluntarily, but may be the end result of lack of knowledge and consciousness, and the unintentional transmission of our own beliefs onto others. Hence, events and projects like this continue to prove their worth and need. As I sat down to write this keynote speech, trying to figure out ways how not to bore you from the start of this conference, I asked myself, where do I start? This question took me back to my first encounter with a trans person back in 2001, when I was still a junior nurse in the Accident and Emergency Department. It was the early hours of the morning when a 16-year-old female came to casualty following a fall needing an X-ray. Given her age, we informed her that we would need to contact her parents to come and sign the parental consent prior to any more intervention. With this news, this patient panicked and begged us not to do so. To our awe, she removed her wig and told us that she was a biologically male, and that her parents were unaware of her identity. I remember us trying to figure out what we were going to do. We took this patient to a single room and ultimately, following a lot of discussions to and fro, we allowed her time to call up her friends to get her the makeup remover and male clothes, and to take with them any female and clothing and accessories to conceal any evidence from her parents. Once this was done, we contacted her parents and they came to give consent for their son. This was my first experience in which I came face to face to lived realities of trans persons. In the busy casualty department, we have tended for hundreds of patients, but this one encounter has left a mark on me. Today's intervention has also taken me down memory lane, as it reminded me of the last 2 years since the birth of the Gender Wellbeing Clinic. And here I can say, oh, what a journey this has been. A wonderful one, I must say, but also a roller coaster ride of emotions. I still can recall the day that I officially got the post, how excited I was to be part of this team and to start a new clinic. At the same time, I must admit, I felt anxious and had some fears of not being able to put this all together. As we held meetings with the working group, discussing and trying to find the best way to implement this service into practice, we were still unsure at that point how many clients would eventually come forward. Then clinical activity kicked off in November 2018. And to date, we have 275 clients registered with the clinic, all with their unique story and with their unique perspective on how to journey on in their transition. In the Gender Wellbeing Clinic, I came in touch with many narratives of trans persons living on our islands. Some narratives of success, accepting, and unconditional love. Other narratives of rejection, loss, and heartbreak. Apart from medical or physical care, this clinic provided that safe space for persons to speak without being judged on whether they are going to say is wrong or right, to be listened to without making the effort to use the correct words, to verbalize their needs without their mental status being questioned. And then, 2 years ago, Transform project came along, and another adventure started. With the added workload that it brought on us, which became more complicated within the context of an ongoing pandemic, I have to admit that I regularly reminded my colleagues that I need a spa day after this project. In fact, I still really do. Nonetheless, hand on heart, I can say it was a journey worth traveling. First of all, we had the opportunity to work with wonderful people, and I want to take this opportunity to publicly thank our colleagues from HIRD, Michael, Gabi, Maronia, and Daron, who have supported us all the way. Moreover, it has been a pleasure to work with experts, which today we can call colleagues, from Ghent University Hospital, ILGA Europe, and TGEU, who have been also of great support and open to sharing good practices with us. Although the COVID situation has unfortunately stolen our possibility to carry out physical exchange visits, I hope that one day we will meet in person so that we can see each other's faces outside the border of a screen. You are always welcome in Malta. However, above all, I can say that Transform has been a learning curve, an opportunity to look with a magnifying glass at our own service provision within and beyond our clinic, to question what we do and to find ways on how we can do better in line with evolving research and latest evidence. Undeniably, Transform has provided a golden opportunity to reach out to other healthcare professionals, for them to get to know about our services, and for us to know their current challenges and practices in different healthcare settings. The setting up of the website and distribution of education and promotion material also helped us build more bridges. Transform also provided a platform for many healthcare professionals coming from different backgrounds to engage in an open and safe discussion, to expand their knowledge, and to reflect not only on their practice, but also on their own beliefs, values, and attitudes. At times, even requiring the need for them to unlearn what they have internalized from their formal and informal teachings, which were based greatly on cisnormative and heteronormative assumptions. I consider this to be a very important outcome of this project, given that the ultimate aim is not to have one inclusive clinic for trans person, but that every encounter of every person within the healthcare system is safe and positive, and that no social group of people experiences worse healthcare outcomes than others. Therefore, I believe that even after this project finishes, we still need to continue to work on the micro level so that we can support healthcare professionals in capacity building and in providing them with the needed guidance, tools, and resources that are needed to make any changes in practice. Transform project has also created a snowball effect with more professionals from different settings coming forward asking for more training. As a healthcare professional myself, this yearn for learning gives me hope and courage. At the same time, this thirst for knowledge on LGBTIQ issues also points out the lack of it, especially in pre-graduate education. I believe it is also time for pre-grad training courses across all healthcare professions to be more inclusive so that our students are sensitized with these topics, just for the simplest reason that yes, LGBTIQ persons are part of our clientele within healthcare. As I reach the end of my intervention, I wish to thank the whole team of the Gender Wellbeing team, which some of them are here today as well. I am but one of this team. Although we are small in number, over the last months, we have strived to meet the different needs of our clients within the limits of our resources and to ensure that every member of the MDT team receives the specific training in relation to his or her profession. Ultimately, I address you, colleagues, healthcare professionals. Transform made me appreciate our value even more, how each one of us can make a difference in another person's lives, at times even just with our choice of words, our body language, our willingness to listen for a few minutes more, or in finding creative ways to provide a safe, inclusive environment for our patients. For that patient, whom I met 20 years ago in casualty, I still wonder how beneficial it could have been for her if we had informational material available in waiting areas, if us professionals were trained to be more comfortable in opening up a healthy conversation with her, if we had the gender clinic where we could have referred her to, or the knowledge to signpost her to support services available in the community. That way, we could not have only focused on treating her fracture, but that encounter would have served as an opportunity to enhance her well-being holistically. Indeed, the word holistic has now been with us for years. We cannot understand human beings holistically if we are not inclusive of one's gender or sexuality, and if we do not understand that one's gender and sexuality makes just one part of the person's humanity. Thank you.
Smajt Broderick.
X'minnu ili ma nara żmien.